Hello and welcome to Sideline Story, your destination for sports news, analysis and discussions. I'm Yang Guang. This episode, we are laser focused on the dramatic exit of Ruben Amorim from Manchester United. We will tackle the big questions: why now? And is this another sign that the coach's authority is fading in today's football? To unpack the questions, I'm joined here with my fantastic co-hosts Tian Yu and Brandon Gates. All right. Ruben Amorim's departure from Manchester United has sent shockwaves through the football world, and the season is at a critical juncture. United is actually in the top 6 of the Premier League. So, Brandon, as a United fan, are you surprised by the move? And more importantly, do you think the board got this timing right for this decision?
I'm definitely not surprised. Like you guys have already mentioned, things have started to improve slightly, but again, I think a lot of the teams around us are also pretty bad this season. I think the race for top 4 is pretty open at this point, and there's a lot of teams around the Premier League that were very relatively strong last season that are seemingly significantly weaker this season. But look, again, things had started to improve slightly, but I think the inconsistency was also just very frustrating for all involved, whether it be the players or senior backroom staff or the executives. I think that it was just too much to handle. Look, I think the timing was a bit strange, and he might have been given a little bit more time if he hadn't had that fiery press conference where he said in 18 months, we'll part ways, or that he wants to be, the manager, not just the head coach. And before that, I think before the 1-1 draw with Leeds United, you'd had a fallout with the club's sporting director, Jason Wilcox. So I think there were a lot of things in the build-up to that press conference that were kind of simmering that would ultimately have led to his sacking at some point, maybe at the end of the season, or at the end of the week even maybe. So I think that press conference kind of left the executives no choice. They either had to go with Jason Wilcox or depart with Ruben Amorim. And I think that the writing was on the wall for Amorim for quite some time. I think that the results just haven't been there. The tactics haven't been there. This inflexibility to try anything else except 3 at the back has been something that's annoyed. Look, again, I think that the timing, I suppose, like I said, was a bit strange considering their position in the league. But I think that after public comments in the way that he made them, and the fact that over the course of his appointment, things hadn't really turned around in a way that the United hierarchy and United fans were expecting, I think that the sacking was going to come at some point, and I think that he knowingly or unknowingly sealed his own fate in that press conference, the last one that he made before his sacking. And there's also, we've seen it with a couple of other managers that have been fired in the past, and most recently Enzo Maresca, where they kind of go into a press conference and say things to get themselves fired. I think it's, it seems to be the new way of getting of getting yourself out of a club, is going to a press conference and saying things that will really annoy the hierarchy. And before of the club that you work on, before that, you and your agent, being the manager, the manager's agent, you and the agent are probably discussing other options and, already talking to other clubs. So by the time they go to the press conference, they want to get fired. They want to get paid out for the remainder of their contract, which I think for Amorim is reported to be in the tens of millions of pounds. And you can move on from there, and he's a young manager, only 40 years old. Now he's got Manchester United on his CV, and he leaves them in 6th place. So I don't think he's going to have a hard time finding a new job. So I think that there was no option for Man United. I think it's what Ruben Amorim wanted at this point. I'm not saying he wanted to get fired from when he was appointed, but I think at this point in time, I think that is what he wanted, and I think he probably knew it was going to come sooner rather than later, and he probably wanted to control his own exit as best as he could.
Right. Tian Yu, as a neutral fan, your take on this? Is it a good time to fire Amorim?
Well, first of all, I am surprised because, just like Brandon said, I did expect Amorim to be sacked at some point, because let's be real, like he said, their performances have been kind of average in his charge, but I didn't expect it to happen this early. I mean, he was only given about 1 year, and I as a neutral fan, I actually have to say something for him, because let's not forget the fact that it was United that wanted him so badly in the first place. Because I mean, they paid Sporting a lot of money to get him in the middle of last season, and Amorim himself, he actually wanted to stay at Sporting for 1 more year, but it was United who pushed for it, and basically telling him now or never, and promised to back him and build a squad that fits his ideas. But now look where we are. I mean, that's why the timing really shocks me. As we're recording this, United stands at 6th place on the table, level on points with Chelsea in 5th, and only 3 points of Liverpool in 4th. So they are absolutely in the Champions League race right now.
They have something to fight for this season.
Yeah, they're right there. So, and this is the moment the club decides to pull the trigger at him. So to me, that's a little bit unreasonable and short-sighted, because it also completely goes against what the club promised or said earlier. Because I mean, not just to Amorim, but to the fans. I remember one of the shareholders, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, saying in an interview a couple of months ago, it was actually in last October, that Amorim needed 3 years to show what he could do, because football isn't built overnight. And he even used Mikel Arteta at Arsenal as an example. I mean, like how things were rough at first, but then patience paid off. And so seeing what's happened now just, makes those words sound completely ridiculous. So I don't really care.
I think the press conference was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I think what Amorim said on the press conference was like an ultimatum to the club. It was either me or the sporting director. But we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. But to me, sacking a coach mid-season when it is still fighting for a top 4 spots is a terrible, terrible decision. And because it seriously risks killing their chances of getting back in the Champions League next season.
Right, if we link Amorim's exit and that press conference, it truly feels like he was fired not because the team performed badly on the pitch, but because of what he said.
Yeah.
That's truly severe. As Brandon mentioned, the situation seems to stem from the fundamental clash over job definition.
Yeah.
As media reported, it seems like Ruben Amorim insisted on coming in as the manager with broader control, but the club esteemed it more as a head coach role, focused on the training pitch. So Tianyu, how do you perceive these two roles here? Would Ruben Amorim's United have had better chances if he'd been given that manager power?
Well, for me, I think, like a head coach, they focus mainly on the pitch, like you said, tactics, training, match day sessions, and you work with the squad you're given. Yeah, and transfers, recruitment, and long-term planning, that's usually handled by the position called the sporting director. A manager, though, they have much more power, because they're involved in everyday everything, basically from tactics, transfers, squad planning, and even the long-term direction of the club. So you have the biggest say, but at the same time, you handle the biggest responsibility. So in Amorim's case, I think United officially hired him as a head coach, not a manager. And I think that really explained what happened next for him. But I think people forgot that Amorim built his reputation using a 3-back system before coming to United. But United, on the other hand, have been playing 4 at the back for years, as Brennan knows it very clearly. So it's almost like hiring a specialist, but then refusing to give him the tools that he need. So it's like hiring a software engineer, but not giving him a computer. I think what Amorim wanted was reinforcements in the winter window. Because, I mean, there are so many players that go into the AFCON, and And considering the fact that, but the club said no to him, and their thinking was like, we've already spent too much this season. We've already had enough players, and if this is a long-term project, we can totally wait until next season. But I think football doesn't really work like that, because if you look at the types of players Amorim wanted, I mean, he wanted guys with Premier League experience who fits his system, like Brian Bemo and Matthias Cunha. They've actually been the better players that United have this season. But the club had a different idea and went on for someone like Benjamin Sesko instead. And from what we have seen, Sesko hasn't really suited either the league or Amorim's system. And also there's the defensive midfield question. I mean, Casemiro he's clearly past his peak. And players like Ugarte and Kobe Mainu, from where I've seen, they aren't ready to play that role yet. Everyone can see it's a problem, but the club, they just did nothing about it. So yeah, I do think if Amorim had more say in, recruitment and squad planning, I think things would look different. And if he had been given the time he was promised, United might actually be in a better place right now.
Okay, about head coach and manager, my assumption used to be like, okay, the head coaches of all Premier League clubs should be managers. It's just their business model.
Yeah.
The coaches have more say not only in tactics but also in transfers, also in staff selection. However, it turns out, after my research, only 6 current Premier League club coaches are called managers.
Yeah.
Even Arne Slot is not the manager. He's just the head coach. Ironically, Erik ten Hag was the manager at United. But it just shows how this role has evolved and has been somehow, I would say, limited. Before we move on, here's a quick review of the biggest sports headlines in China and around the world for the past week.
In Formula One, Cadillac has confirmed China's Zhou Guanyu as a reserve driver ahead of his debut season. Zhou joins a Cadillac lineup led by drivers Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, with Colton Herta serving as a test driver while competing in Formula 2 this season. The Chinese driver says he looks forward to a brand new journey.
Hello, Cadillac F1 车队车迷朋友们，你们好，我是周冠宇。
Hello, dear fans of the Cadillac Formula One team. This is Zhou Guanyu. I am very happy to announce that I will be joining the team as a reserve driver for this season. Embarking on this brand new journey with this brand new team, I'm truly looking forward to all the challenges ahead. See you on the track.
Zhou raced alongside Bottas during his 3 seasons with Alfa Romeo and its successor team Sauber from 2022 to 24. The 26-year-old made history in 2022 as China's first Formula One driver. He served as a reserve driver for Ferrari in 2025 before departing at the end of the year. China's 2-time Olympic short-track speed skating champion has announced his retirement. Wu Dajing opted for a low-key farewell and decided against holding a ceremony. The 31-year-old claimed Olympic gold in the men's 500 meters at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Games for China's sole title at that edition. He then helped the host nation top the podium in the mixed 2,000-meter relay at the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. The new coach of China's men's national football team has called for restoring faith in China's football. Xiao Jiayi made his first public appearance since the Chinese Football Association appointed him on November the 5th.
When I received the news of my appointment as head coach of the national team, it was an overwhelming moment of excitement and nerves. Becoming head coach is just one step toward a larger goal. Our real aim is to build a national side that plays with this spirit and earns the results to make our country proud. Ultimately, achieve the long-held dream of our people. The first step is restoring faith in Chinese football. That's not just words. It means rigorous training, high-quality preparation, and taking game by game, step by step toward our vision.
Following an 8-day training camp in Guangdong province, Xiao's squad will depart for the United Arab Emirates to play a series of training matches. Former Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag is set to return to his boyhood club FC Twente as technical director from next season. Ten Hag has signed a deal running until mid-2028, marking a homecoming to the club where he began his playing career in 1989 and retired in 2002. The 55-year-old will officially take up the role on February the 1st, succeeding Jan Stuhr, who steps down at the end of the season. The 11th edition of the She Believes Cup will be held in March, featuring host the US alongside Argentina, Canada, and Colombia. The annual 4-team women's tournament brings together the top 2 teams from CONCACAF, the US and Canada, and South American sides Colombia and Argentina. The US enter as 7-time champions, though Japan ended their 5-year winning run in 2025. The tournament runs from March the 1st to 7th and forms part of US preparations for the 2027 Women's World Cup in Brazil.
Welcome back. Ruben Amorim's exit from Man United is not an isolated case. Recently, Enzo Maresca was fired by Chelsea following comparable reports about philosophical, differences with the board. So this begs a bigger question here, Tianyu. In the modern era, do you think the impact and the power of head coaches has been permanently diminished? Why are Amorim and Maresca so frustrated about their roles?
Well, yeah, I think in terms of the first question, the answer is definitely yes, because like you said, nowadays in the Premier League, most clubs don't really have managers anymore. Like you said, they have head coaches. And among the 20 teams in the Premier League, there are as many as 14 head coaches in the league right now. And only a few people like Arteta and Pep Guardiola are blessed with the traditional manager role with real control. And I think the Amorim Maresca situations actually show how much the jobs have been changed. Because back in the days, guys like Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger, they kind of ran everything. Transfers, contracts, tactics, everything. That's basically impossible now because modern football is too big and too complex with the influx of capital and businesses and the hierarchy thing. So that's why the sporting directors have become so important now. And I mean, in theory, the establishment of this position of sporting director is a good idea because they split the workload. They make the club more professional. But I think the position also creates new problems. And Amorim is a perfect example here because his comments after the Leeds game clearly felt that it was directed towards the leadership team in United, especially the director of football, Jason Wilcox. It showed that the relationship had broken down completely between him and the management. And whether, in terms of the question of whether it is good, the system is good for football, I think it all depends. I mean, clear roles can help a club run better, but having two bosses in a team is always risky. So who do players really listen to? And in Amorim's case, there are too many gray areas. He wanted certain players, the director didn't. He wanted to use a back three formation, and the club told him to have a back four. So yeah, I think splitting responsibilities can work. But if the chemistry isn't right, it just quickly turns to more confusion and conflict. And that's exactly what we saw at Man United right now.
Right. From my perspective, I always believe football is at its best when there's only one clear vision driving the club going forward. This unified direction by one single trusted football mind is, I would say, always more effective than a bunch of different voices, especially sometimes these voices generate only noises rather than expertise. Of course, this model relies on one presumption, that is the leader, the coach, should be exceptionally good and be truly trusted. Yeah. We've seen this proven by masterminds like Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp. Their philosophy is not just confined to the training pitch. It extends to the team culture, player recruitment, and long-term strategies. Yeah. To truly build something, the head coach should be central to these decisions, which I think is very basic, actually, in terms of football games. So in this case, I'm kind of, on Maresca and Amorim's side because they hadn't been quite given
Yeah,
the
they had
complete trust
Yeah,
and
they have-
opportunity.
They don't have the chance to prove themselves.
Yeah, to deliver what they had in mind for the clubs. They had so much to compromise. Just imagine if Alex Ferguson was questioned by the sporting director at Man United about his game strategy, how would he react? So if the reports are true that Amorim faced such situation after he was promised greater control at the club when he took charge in the first place, his frustration was completely valid and understandable to me. Ruben Amorim hasn't been given, whether he deserved it or not, the complete trust from the club. Maybe in the parallel world, when Amorim, took the manager role with that power, Man United could be different. We don't know. I mean, ultimately, football. Ultimately, football is first and foremost a sport. It's a game, and it's only secondly, it is a business. Of course, big clubs like Man United need, commercial values, commercial appeal, and star players who help sell shirts. But at the end of the day, I think the success is built on the pitch, and it's the head coach who constructs the team and leads the performance. My concern is that nowadays, it seems like too many clubs operate purely as corporate entities with so many unprofessional or less professional directors, making too many football decisions. I think the owners should be reminded that the good incomes only come with good performances.
Yeah.
Brandon, do you think coaches are becoming, more interchangeable tacticians than builders nowadays in football? If yes, why is this trend happening, and is it good for the game?
Look, it does seem to be this new sort of way of leading a team, and that, you have kind of these executives and accountants behind the scenes running the club and, trying to, resolve the financial situations of the teams and, taking care of them as a corporate entity, and then kind of leaving the head coach to do, what's necessary on the field that these guys don't really know what to do. And then the sporting director kind of behind the scenes running the show, but not having to answer questions, when the club is not performing. Whether that is the right way to run a club going forward, is that the right thing? I'm not so sure. It clearly hasn't worked at Manchester United yet. That being said, maybe the next appointment, maybe that will work. Maybe the next head coach will be someone that, is a pet to someone like Jason Wilcox and does exactly what he's told, and maybe that will bring about the results that United are so desperately wanting. But to answer the original question, whether this is the right direction going forward, I think for certain clubs maybe that are, maybe trying to climb the ranks or, become more aligned with modern football and have a greater say in a bigger league. You think of smaller teams in the Premier League like Bournemouth and, Brighton and a couple of other ones that are kind of, changing the way that they operate and are trying to have more of a say in modern football and trying to survive in the Premier League. Maybe that is the way to do things going forward. But then you look at the two, look, I know City have fallen off a little bit, but if you look at the two most recently historically successful clubs in the Premier League, they seem to have the old school modern manager approach, namely Manchester City and Arsenal with Arteta and Pep Guardiola, and also look, I don't know if Jurgen Klopp's role was head coach or manager, but
he was the manager.
So I think Jurgen Klopp also had a far greater say in Liverpool's direction, and it did take some time, but ultimately he, brought Liverpool their first title after more than 20 years and really turned around the way that club operated and had such a fantastic relationship with the fans, with the players, with the hierarchy, and he was definitely the heart and soul of that team, as are Mikel Arteta at Arsenal and Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. So I think that this experiment might work for certain teams. It's certainly not working for Manchester United at the moment, but I don't think Ineos is going to change that ethos, at least that's what's been indicated. I think a lot of what's going to happen with Manchester United going forward is going to have to do with this next appointment. I think the next appointment is going to kind of let us as fans know where the club is going to go going forward. Are they going to revert to an old school manager where, the manager has more power than the sporting director? I don't think that's going to happen. I would like to see that happen. But then again, if they are going to bring in a head coach and keep the power with the sporting director, Jason Wilcox, who they have now backed over Ruben Amorim, they're going to have to really find someone that needs to know and accept that they are going to be the subordinate to Jason Wilcox.
Right. Let's see if United can get back on track after the Ruben Amorim era and how the role of head coach will evolve in football. With that, we end this episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe to Sideline Story and leave your comments wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, you can also check our website at radio.cgtn.com. Until next time, stay on the sidelines with us.